Hey, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Unfeigned the Podcast. I'm Jay, and I'm your host. And today's episode is special. It's what I'm calling Healing Out Loud. It's a place where healing begins with honesty, where we don't pretend like pain didn't happen. We bring it all to the table, all of our brokenness, our confusion, um, and we do it without shame. And so these episodes are where I answer your questions that you've submitted. And we do this the last Friday of every month. And these episodes are important because not only will you receive answers to your questions, but someone who may not have submitted something may also get an answer to what they've been looking for. And when I dive into your questions, I want to let you know it comes straight from the heart. There's no script, there's no filters. This is all just about real people seeking real restoration. So let me just say this before we dive in. If you're hurting and searching, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. So let's dive in. So the first question that came in, and we're going to cover two today. The first question that came from someone who asked, I feel like I've lost myself after years of putting everyone else first. Where do I even begin to heal when I don't recognize who I am anymore? So that one hit me because I get it. I get it. And most of us probably can relate. When you spend years being everything for everyone else, when you silence your own needs in the name of peace or survival or ministry or motherhood or keeping a marriage from falling apart, you wake up one day and you realize you're gone. You don't know what you enjoy. You can't feel your own voice. You look in the mirror and think, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know this person. And I want to tell you that's sacred ground because the first step in healing isn't becoming someone new. It's finally noticing the version of you that's been buried underneath all that survival. So I want to share some things with you. And this is very important. So I want you to really lock in here. You didn't just lose yourself. Okay. That phrase is often used in this circumstance. You didn't just lose yourself. You slowly abandoned yourself moment by moment. The crazy thing is, you may have even believed it was noble, right? And I get it because you thought love meant sacrifice, right? You thought being strong meant being silent. But I need you to hear me on this. Self-abandonment is not love. It's not humility. It's self-erasure, right? So where do you begin? Okay, well, you begin by returning to yourself, creating space to hear you again. So let's think of an example here, okay? So I want you to imagine something for me, right? And this may or may not be exactly, specifically, directly what you are going through or your experience, which led to this question. It may not be exactly, it's just an example that I'm going to come up with. But the principles and the vibe of it can definitely be applied. Okay, so imagine a woman named Monica. All right, she's 42. She's been married for like 15 years. She's raised 3 kids, or she's raising 3 kids. It feels like she's running on fumes, right? Her husband's emotionally distant. Her kids are always pulling at her 24/7. Her friends, though, only see the quote unquote put together version of her. And so one night she's sitting in her car, and maybe she just had dropped off some groceries, and all of a sudden a flood of tears just come. No reason, no trigger, just years of being invisible. Years of that weight just all of a sudden hit her. Monica doesn't need a spa day. She doesn't need a new planner, right? She needs permission to matter again. So here are some action steps. Here are some things that I think that you could do that could help. There's just some practical things that could help with rediscovering yourself. Okay, so practice a daily check-in, a daily self-check-in. So every morning, pause and ask yourself, what do I need today that would honor me? What do I need today that would honor me? And then answer it. Write down the answer and then honor it. Okay, another practical thing that could help is like unfollow the shoulds. Okay, make a list of all the roles you felt forced to play. All of those roles you felt like you had to be. Right, then start to cross off the ones that don't align with who God created you to be. Another practical thing to think about is start to reintroduce joy. Reclaim something like even just one simple thing that you used to love before life got real heavy. Maybe you love to dance or read or write or paint, whatever it is. Start there. Reclaim that one simple thing that you used to love before life got so heavy. And another practical thing to do, and this is weighty. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Like, would you let your child or your best friend or a loved one go years without rest, years without care or attention? No, you wouldn't. So stop letting you do that. So I want to encourage you. First, I want to say thank you so much for submitting this question. I know a lot of these things are simple, but I also get that they're not easy. Trust me when I say I've been there. It's not easy, and I get that. But I also want you to know you're not alone. Your soul is not gone. It's not gone. It's just been quiet. It's still there. It's just waiting to be seen. And I get it. I know it can feel selfish at first, but healing isn't selfish. It's stewardship, right? Think about this. If your cup is completely dry, you can't pour into anyone else, right? So, and think of it like this. You're not starting over. This isn't starting over. It's just that you're finally showing up for you. So I want to challenge you with this week. Okay? This week, I want you to say yes to yourself once a day. Say yes to yourself once a day, even if it's scary. It could be saying yes to a boundary. It could be saying yes to a nap. It could be saying yes to your truth. Say yes to yourself once a day this week, even if it's scary. And here's the thing, and I want to prepare you for some things, because remember, in these moments, our inner voice, our inner critic starts to get very loud. And so if your inner critic starts to say, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are doing this? I want you to tell that inner voice, your inner critic, I want you to tell them, I'm someone worth healing. So the second question that was submitted is about a marriage. And they asked, well, the person that submitted this asked, my spouse and I are barely speaking. I don't know how to fix what's been broken for so long. Is it too late to restore our marriage? This one for me is, it hits different. If you know my story, you know why I say that, but definitely felt that one deep. So marriage wounds, they're not just about two people, right? On the surface, that's what it is. It's two people trying to figure this out, but it's not just about two people. They affect your hope, your self-worth, your sleep, your faith. They affect so much at such deeper levels than just two people. But I want to say this, and I need you to hear me. Let me say this very clearly. No, it's not too late. It's not too late to restore your marriage. It's never too late, and no marriage is beyond restoration. But I want you to know it is too late to keep pretending. And we're going to dive into this question, but again, I want to say thank you for submitting this question, because both folks that submitted these questions are brave. Okay? It takes bravery and courage to put this out there. And listen, when you submit a question to Unfeigned, you remain anonymous. I don't know. I don't know who. I won't. It's impossible for me to know who sent these questions in. But it's courageous that you took a step to do that. So thank you. I just want you to know how meaningful that is. Okay, but let's get back to this question. So it's not too late to restore your marriage, but it is definitely too late to keep pretending. You cannot keep pretending. So what does it require? What does restoring your marriage require? Restoring a marriage isn't about going back to what you had. I think it's a misconception when we think about restoring a marriage or healing a marriage. We often, or we could tend to think that it's just a better version of what we already had. And that's not the truth. It's about building something new from what's true now. It's about building something new from a place of healing. And so here's a couple things that I've learned. Okay, you don't rebuild a relationship by making the other person change. Just let that sink in for a second. You don't rebuild a relationship by making the other person change. You rebuild it by becoming safe again. Not perfect, but safe. You rebuild it by becoming healed. Not perfect, but healed. And I've learned it requires three things. It's involved, but these three things definitely are required for this to take place. Consistency over control. Curiosity over criticism. And connection over correction. Okay, so I just want to unpack those real quick. So consistency over control. We often like to control outcomes, and our behavior corresponds with that goal. And if we can control the outcome of a certain situation, we can move on to the next situation. But then when that same situation pops up, we act from a place of our brokenness, and it becomes toxic. And so instead of focusing on controlling the outcome, getting a grip on what's going on, getting a handle on this, just be consistent. Be consistent. Show up, be present, be consistent, instead of trying to control the outcome. And we can even unpack that further, because what should you be consistent in? We can unpack that further, but at the core, it's consistency over control. When I say curiosity over criticism, that's be curious, not judgmental. Right? Ask questions, don't judge. Ask questions, don't assume. Investigate, wonder, rather than project your assumption and opinion into it. Okay, connection over correction. That's a Band-Aid solution, right? If you're simply focused on just correcting and then fill in the blank, the behavior, the circumstance, situation, the reaction, the outcome, whatever it is, if you're focused on correcting whatever it is, then yeah, you may keep it at bay for a bit, but you haven't gotten to the root. Connection is the root, right? So it is very much more important to connect the whys, right? The WHY, the whys. What's the underlying? Where is this coming from? What's the root? Rather than just to fix this. It's not about fixing, okay? So again, just like I did for the other question, I'm gonna give you an example. And again, this may be very specific, directly related to why you asked this question, or it may not, but the principles still apply. And so you can take the principles and apply it to your exact situation. So we're going to imagine a couple, and we're going to call them James and Erica. Okay. They've been sleeping in separate rooms and every conversation turns into a fight. So James keeps trying to fix things, and he might even like send flowers, or he might do some things just to fix things. Erica rolls her eyes, and she's thinking, you don't even see me. What James needs to do is stop trying to patch holes, right? And it could be with grand gestures. It could just be with behaviors, whatever it is. He needs to stop trying to just quote unquote patch holes, and he needs to start rebuilding emotional safety. So instead of, why are you always mad at me? Try, I've realized I haven't really been listening, and I want to. And if you're willing, I'm ready to hear your truth. And even if it's hard for me. Those are two very different reactions. So that's what safety sounds like. Okay. So here's a couple things. Here's a couple things that you can do. These are practical, practical steps that you can do that will help. Okay. So one is start with ownership. I know that apologies have become so watered down anymore in relationships. There's such a lack of sincerity in our apologies anymore. I'll tell you why. More often than not, we apologize to move past. If we can apologize and that works, then we don't have to dig in, right? So we say, I'm sorry, but really what we're saying is, I really hope we can just move on. That's not a sincere apology. That's barely a surface level apology. It's a selfish apology. And unfortunately, we throw them around like it's like, Oprah, like you get a car, everybody gets an apology, right? And so it diminishes the sincerity until there is no sincerity. And then we're simply apologizing because we want to just move on. We want to, quote unquote, dodge a bullet, right? And what we really need to do is we really need to step into a sincere apology, repentance for what we did. And when I say start with ownership, it has to come from a place of that, right? And so apologize for what you did, or if you failed to do something, apologize for that. But it can't be this surface level apology. It has to be a sincere apology. Don't blame them or ask them for anything in return. That's the tainted apology, right? If I say I'm sorry, and the expectation is that if I say I'm sorry, you'll let me off the hook, that's selfish. And that's not an apology at all. So if you're going to own this, apologize, but without blaming and without asking for anything in return. Okay, another thing is ask the trust question. It gets tough. We're talking about restoring your marriage. It's not about whether you want to or like to do certain things. It's about what you need to do for restoration to happen. And any marriage can be restored no matter what is the circumstance. But a lot of things have to happen. Well, one of these things, I believe, is, I'm calling it the trust question, but sit down with each other and ask each other, what would rebuilding trust look like for you? What would rebuilding trust look like for you? And then just listen. Don't explain. Don't fix. Just witness. Just listen. No matter how much it might hurt to hear what your partner is saying, just listen. Another real practical thing to do is, and this is we're talking about connection here, right? So, and I've really adopted this quote unquote check-in format, and I love it. I really do. And so initiate weekly check-ins, right? Create like a 30-minute space once a week to connect. Very intentional. That's not the only 30 minutes in the week that y'all should connect, but this is extremely intentional for this purpose. So create a 30-minute space once a week to connect. Not about bills or your kids or schedules, not about logistics, but it's about your hearts. You're not getting together for 30 minutes to coordinate your calendars. Okay? We're talking about your marriage. Use that 30-minute space at least once a week, but definitely start with once a week to connect your hearts and dive into the hard stuff. Okay, another thing, and I know there's a fine line. This is a fine dance, but I'm going to tell you that it's true because it's true. It works because it works. There is a quote unquote level up about this. Invite God into the process. Pray together. Now, yeah, you might be, if faith is important to you, you're accepting this, right? If you're listening to this and faith is part of your life in any way, you're like, yes, I want to do that, and you're accepting it, you're embracing it. If faith is not important to you, you're like, well, I know you're feeling some type of way. You may even be dismissing what I'm saying right now about the inviting God into the process. But I need to ask you something. And I'm going to dig in here a little bit. I'm going to challenge you. Okay? If God has not been a part of the process, how's that working out for you? You submitted a question, and I'm not claiming that this question that was submitted, whoever submitted this question, I'm not claiming that God is not a part of your life, that faith is not a part of your life. This is in general. I'm making a general statement, but when we're talking about brokenness in our own lives, and we're talking about marriages that are falling apart and relationships that are falling apart, and we can look back and if we can say, I don't have faith, or I do, but we didn't bring God into it, then how's that working out for you? How did it work out for you? And so at the very least, it's already broken. So why not? Right? Pray together, even if it's awkward. And listen, I'm going to tell you, it is awkward. Not if it's a regular habit, but if you've never done it and you're going to try to do it, or if you know you should have done it and just didn't, yeah, it's awkward, but who the frick cares if it's awkward? We're talking about your marriage. We're not talking about your image. Pray together, even if it's awkward. Even if it's just 30 seconds. Even if it's just saying, God, we don't know how to do this. Whether we've never done it or whether we should have done it. We don't know how to do it. But God, we know what we're doing is not working. Would you please join us? Come into this process and help us. Right? Let healing begin in the spirit, not just on the surface. All right, so I want to encourage you. Yeah, I want to encourage you, and I want you to hear me. I know you're tired. I know it feels impossible. But you have to hear me on this and let this sink in. What's broken doesn't mean it's beyond repair. Brokenness doesn't mean irreparable. Sometimes the best chapters in our lives start after the crash, after the suffering, after the pain, after the hurt. Because we're finally telling the truth. We're not hiding anymore. And if only even just one of you in the marriage or the relationship, even if it's just one of you that's ready right now, that's still a start. You showing up differently may invite your spouse to soften and do the same. And it may not happen immediately. That's okay. It's a process, but it'll happen over time. If both of you are ready, that's awesome. But even if it's just one of you that's ready, that's a start. So I want to challenge you, okay? I want to challenge you who submitted this question. So this week, don't try to win the marriage back. Hear me what I'm saying, because the goal is to restore your marriage, to quote unquote get your marriage back, right? I want you to think counterintuitively. This week, don't try to win your marriage back. Don't try to get your marriage back. Don't quote unquote try hard to restore your marriage. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to try your best to just show up differently. One moment of humility, one soft answer, one courageous, can we talk? Show up differently. You're not too far gone. Your marriage is not too far gone. God is still in the business of writing redemptive stories. Okay, your story is not finished yet, and it can be redeemed. Y'all, as we close this episode, I just want to say to those of you who submitted these questions, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your courage. To everyone who is listening and you didn't submit a question or whatever, healing is not linear, right? Healing doesn't happen in a perfectly straight line. It's not neat, but it is holy. Okay? And it's important to know you don't have to walk it alone. So, to those of you who did not submit a question, if this spoke to you, if this touched you, if you've been impacted in any way by this episode, or if you know somebody that might, send it to them. Send it to someone who needs it, right? If you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked this question, that would have been great, or then go to unfeigned.org and submit a question. You can do that anytime you want, okay? The last Friday of every month, that's when that episode will be dedicated to this specifically, and we're calling it Healing Out Loud. So y'all, thank you again so much for submitting the questions. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If any of this, what I said on this episode, if there's anything that I said that you want to dive into deeper, because I know I didn't unpack everything that could be unpacked. And I hope what I did share, I hope it even scratched the surface of getting you some answers. I would really hope that it got underneath the surface. And so I hope it helped. I hope it's encouraged you. I hope it's a benefit to you to hear what I had to share about your questions. But if you would like to dive even deeper into some of these things that I shared on this episode, then reach out to me because I would love to do that. You can email me at unfeignedpodcast@gmail.com. Definitely go to the website, unfeigned.org, because you can even contact me that way. And just reach out and let's connect over these things. Y'all, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I love doing these. I love doing these episodes. I really do look forward to the last Friday of every month because getting questions from listeners gives me an opportunity, one, to learn your heart, to see your heart. And I love connecting with people, right? It also gives me an opportunity to speak life into your situation from my story and what I've learned. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Okay. Well, again, before we close this episode, just in general, thank you all for being on this journey. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Check out the website. And until next time, we'll see you then.